Hello, and welcome to the last and final part of this masterclass series. Thank you all for joining in. And for today's session, our topic is going to be analytics. And specifically, we are going to look at how analytics can help give you a holistic view of your IT service desk. Now, I'll start out with a quick introduction of who I am and what I do. My name is Rakesh, and I am a product manager at Manage Engine. And I've been here for over 8 years now. And I'm primarily in charge of product design and integrating our analytics offering to Manage Engine and other non-Manage Engine IT software. During my career, I've had the amazing opportunity to interact with a lot of customers and help them out in implementing various IT software, including Service Desk Plus. Now, before we begin with the session, I just want to tell you all that you can use the questions box in the GoToWebinar panel on the right-hand side of your screen to post your questions at any point in time during the course of this webinar, and I'll be happy to answer those questions in our Q&A session towards the end of this session. Great. So I hope you enjoyed the previous sessions and learned a lot about how Service Desk Plus and the different Service Desk Plus modules can help you run your help desk operations efficiently. You've probably realized by now how vast Service Desk Plus is and how it can help you incorporate your intricate workflows and help run your help desk operations efficiently. Now, I don't have to tell you that help desk operations can get very complex sometimes, and it is very easy for you to get lost in the vast amount of information and processes in your help desk. So in today's session, I'm going to talk about how to make sense of all the information in your help desk and use all that data to establish better control of your operations using advanced analytics for Service Desk Plus. So in today's session, these are the different topics that we will be talking about. We'll start out by looking at a few role-based dashboards and see how it helps different audience from your organization from different levels of management. For example, you have your CIOs and CTOs, and you have your help desk managers and technicians and so on. So each of them need something different from the help desk. And so we're going to look at how role-based dashboards really help them in getting a 360-degree view of your help desk. And after that, we're going to talk about how analytics can help you understand things that go on in your help desk, especially to do with analyzing technician behavior. And we're also going to look at how you can use analytics to help spot actions that could maybe reducing the efficiency at which your help desk is operating. And finally, we are going to look at how analytics can help in decision making on a day-to-day basis. Now, all the reports that we'll be discussing today were built using advanced analytics powered by Zoho Analytics. So let me give you a quick introduction of what advanced analytics is and how you can set it up for your Service Desk Plus Cloud. So you need to go to your setup panel, and under the apps and add-ons section, you will see an option by the name Zoho Analytics. Now, you need to sign up for a Zoho Analytics account. You just go to zoho.com/analytics and sign up for a Zoho Analytics account. And once you have that account in place, you just go into your Service Desk Plus application and create or just key in your email address with which you've signed up for your analytics account, and also specify the authorization key that is tagged with your account. So as soon as you set up the integration, you will be able to see reports and dashboards on Zoho Analytics. And Zoho Analytics is a business intelligence and analytics software, and it offers a way for you to run complex custom reports without having to rely on complex SQL queries. Now, the entire thought process behind having an advanced analytics option is to make it very easy for users or specifically Service Desk Plus users to generate reports. Now, out of the box, as soon as you set up the integration, you get over 400 reports and dashboards built on over 80 plus KPIs in less than about 5 minutes. And the drag and drop report builder lets you just pick fields that you are interested in and build your reports without having to write complex SQL queries. Now, one of the recent developments that happened in advanced analytics or Zoho Analytics is the introduction of a new AI assistant, which generates reports based on plain text input. So think of it as an Alexa or a Siri for your IT, and all you need to do is just ask the question that you're interested in, and the application will respond with the right answer. So let me give you a quick demo of how this works. So this is the Zoho Analytics application, and these are the different reports and dashboards, and you have a little option here called Ask Zia. That is what we call our AI assistant. And once this loads, you just go in and type your question here, and the application can list or give you an answer in the form of a report. So for example, let's say I am interested in knowing what my SLA violations are like. So I can just go in and type, show me the SLA violations, and hit enter, and you'll see the application respond with a number of requests that violated the SLA just like that. Now, let's say if I want to only look at SLA violations that happened this year, I can just add to my original question and say, show me the SLA violations for this year. And again, the application refreshes with data showing you the number of SLA violated requests. Now you can go a little deeper. Let's say you want to see who are the different technicians who are responsible, who handle these 7 SLA violated requests. You can also add that criteria to your original question and just type, let's say, by technician, and the application can return with the answer. Let me just here by, all right, there you go. So it can give you the same information with a split up of the number of requests each of these technicians handled. So it simplifies your help desk reporting further, and it allows non-technical users to use the application and generate reports that they want without having to worry about which fields to use or which columns to use and what kind of filter they need to apply. All that can happen just using text input. So that is one recent addition aimed to make report building very, very easy. In addition to that, the application also gives you a powerful formula engine that lets you create a lot of calculated metrics. We'll see a few examples of what these calculated metrics are, but to just give you an idea, calculated metrics are metrics that are calculated with the raw data that you get from your Service Desk Plus cloud. And once all these reports and dashboards are generated, obviously you can share these reports with your colleagues, and also you can collaborate with colleagues in real time using an inline commenting feature, which lets you tag specific users in your company right on the dashboard. So it works just like commenting works on any social media platform like Facebook or Twitter. So let's say you're looking at a report that is showing you the list of SLA violations by technician. You can just tag technicians on that report and ask them the reasons for the SLA violation on that particular instance. So they can come in, respond to the question, and it remains as a record on that particular report. So it takes collaboration to a whole new level by letting you do a lot of real-time collaboration. And finally, you can also blend help desk data with data from other applications, such as your network monitoring application or your project management application if you use something other than what is available in Service Desk Plus. And that way you can have all your IT data in one single location. So once you set up the synchronization, like I said, these are the different dashboards and reports that will appear as soon as the synchronization is complete. And you can see there are different different reports and different dashboards are based on different things that happen in the help desk. Now, with so many reports, one of the common questions that I get asked very often is, where do I start? Now, I would recommend switching to the folder view, because in this workspace, all the help desk reports are sorted based on the different folders, and each folder has reports pertaining to a specific module. So you have request reports listed over here, and let's say if you're interested in knowing about how assets are performing and asset related or any other asset related information, that should be available in the asset report folder. So one thing I would like to mention here is the asset reports are yet to be released for Service Desk Plus Cloud. We've already released it for Service Desk Plus on-premise, but the asset management reports is one thing that you might not be able to see in your workspace right now if you already set up the integration with Zoho Analytics, or if you're thinking about setting up the integration with Zoho Analytics. But it should be available pretty soon, within the next few months. All right, so now that you can see that all those reports and dashboards are sorted by the different modules, now the next important question is, how do you get a holistic view of your help desk when reports are spread across different modules? Now that's where the dashboards come in. While individual reports help answer specific questions, dashboards club all the important metrics together and gives users an overview of help desk operations. But when it comes to getting an overview or a holistic view of your help desk, not everyone is looking for the same thing. And this is a very crucial aspect that we should all be aware of, because someone like a CIO is going to want answers to questions such as how the IT budget is being spent, and what are the different areas or what are the different resources on which the IT budget is being used. And he's also going to be interested in the different areas where he can cut costs if that need ever arises. And also he's going to be interested in knowing how satisfied end users are with the service that the IT help desk is providing. So those are some of the common things a CIO or a CTO is going to be interested in. And on the other hand, a help desk manager is going to be interested in a whole set of different things. Now he's going to be interested in things like the average resolution time on your help desk, the average response time, the hours of the day when the request volume is higher than usual, the average number of times a request gets reassigned to a technician or gets moved around to different technicians. And if he's also playing the role of the asset manager, he's going to be interested in knowing how long an asset is being used by users, so that he can plan for purchasing new assets that might be needed as replacements to the existing ones. So as you can see, the word holistic means quite different to the different people in the organization. So let us see how Zoho Analytics offers a holistic view to a CIO using the CIO dashboard. So I have the CIO dashboard right here, and like I mentioned earlier, the CIO is going to be interested in the high-level stuff that goes on in your help desk, and things that are particularly tied to the cost aspect of IT. So things like the average cost per request gives CIOs an idea of the amount of money that is being spent on resolving each request on average. Now, this could include costs of technicians, or it could also be costs incurred in purchasing resources or fixing existing resources. Now, another area where your CIO is going to be interested in is the number of major outages, because they have a huge financial aspect associated to them, because major outages bring your productivity down, and when the productivity is down, it affects your company or your business financially. And also, it's a well-known fact, and it's a common practice for every company to have a set IT budget that is fixed towards the beginning of the year. And it is very important that IT operates within this budget. And the IT spend widget gives CIOs an idea of where they are in terms of spending that budget that is available to them, and how close they are to reaching their limit. And most of the budget is spent on acquiring new assets. And this widget here shows you the asset acquisition phase, because IT is usually in charge of acquiring all IT-related equipment and is also responsible for commissioning them. So acquiring assets too fast could add additional burden to the IT team, because it takes a lot of time and effort in commissioning or to commission IT equipment properly. So this is an important widget that tells you how fast assets are being acquired in the current year. And all these widgets on top compare the current stand or the current standing with the previous year or the previous quarter, based on what is most applicable. Now, let's say the CIO is looking at this dashboard and he wants to know how you did, or how the company did the previous year, or let's say the previous quarter. Now, he doesn't have to go in and generate a whole separate report just to answer that question. He can use one of the period filters that is available here, and he can click on any of these options like this month, or previous quarter, or previous year. And as soon as that option is selected, the entire dashboard will get refreshed with data from the last year. Similarly, if he wants to filter based on a specific site or department, that is something that can be done easily just by using a drop-down filter on the dashboard. So let's look at a few of these reports that are available and see what information a CIO can get from it. Now, the IT budget spend chart displays the areas where the IT budget is being spent. And this can show whether funds are being used to acquire the type of assets that are the most critical to the organization. And also, besides showing you the overall IT spend, the year-on-year comparison of IT spend tells you how much money is being spent on acquiring IT and non-IT assets compared to the previous year. So just by looking at this report, you can visually see that the spend is a little higher compared to the previous year in Q2 of 2019, but it has gone down a little bit compared to Q3 of last year. So let's CIOs compare how they did in reference to the previous years, and give a fair idea of where they currently stand. And when it comes to money, now everyone likes to save money, because be it their personal life or when it comes to IT, it is important to only spend on things that are absolutely necessary. Now, one area where companies tend to overspend is when it comes to software licenses. And usually we might end up buying software licenses anticipating demand, but more often than not, the software licenses go unused. Now, learning from these experiences and keeping an eye on software that gets overpurchased can help save a lot of money. And the potential for savings report is a great way for you to get this information. So this report shows you the different softwares that are overpurchased and are not being used, along with the amount of money that the company has spent on these software. And again, we talked about major outages earlier. This is a more elaborate version of the widget that showed us the total number of major outages. It compares the current number of outages with the previous years to give you an idea of where you currently stand. And as a best practice, it goes without saying that you should always aim for a lower number of outages compared to the previous years, so that you are constantly getting better at it. As a CIO, if there are also areas where my end users are not essentially happy with, I would want to know information about that. So this areas of highest customer dissatisfaction helps highlight those areas where the quality of service has to be definitely improved. Now, most of the metrics that are on this dashboard give you the absolute number. That is the absolute number of major outages, the absolute amount of money that was spent, the absolute number of requests that or absolute number of requests where customers were not very happy with. But there are some metrics that are better represented as percentages rather than numbers. And a good example of that is SLA compliance. Now, I talked about calculated metrics earlier using the custom formula engine. Now, SLA compliance is one such metric that is calculated using the formula engine. Now, you get the total number of requests that violated the SLA every month from Service Desk Plus, and using Zoho Analytics, you can calculate what percentage it makes up in the overall number of requests that came in to the help desk. So the SLA compliance report here represents the percentage value of requests that violated the SLA. That is represented by the green section of this bar here, and also the number of, or the percentage of requests that were resolved within the specified SLA guidelines, represented by the green bar. So this is very beneficial to most organizations, and especially to managed service providers or MSPs who have to stringently adhere to SLA terms. So the CIO dashboard, as you can see, gives a holistic view to CIOs and CTOs and shows them how much of the IT budget is being spent, what are the different areas for potential cost saving, customer satisfaction, and the SLA compliance levels. So in a similar fashion, a service desk manager can get a 360-degree view of the help desk using the help desk manager dashboard or the service desk manager dashboard. Now, contrary to a CIO or a CTO, the help desk manager is going to be interested in the day-to-day things that goes on in the help desk, such as the number of requests that came into the help desk, the average amount of time technicians spend on a request, the average response time, the number of SLA violations, and things like the average resolution time. So out of all these metrics, one metric that I would personally urge all help desk managers to track is the burn rate, because the burn rate is a metric that tells you the percentage of requests that were resolved in comparison to the total number of requests that came into the help desk that particular month. So that means if the burn rate for a certain month was 50%, it means that your help desk was only able to resolve half the number of requests that came into the help desk or was open on that particular month. Now, a burn rate of about 80% or more is an indicator that the help desk is performing efficiently. So if you look at my report here, the total number of incoming requests that came in the month of June 2019 was about 90, whereas the number of requests that were closed in the month of June is at about 29, giving you a burn rate of 32%. And that is a fair indicator and a very accurate indicator of how your help desk is performing, or if your help desk is performing at the fundamental level, that is resolving or closing requests quickly. And one of the most difficult things to get absolutely spot on is staffing, because you need to have a thorough understanding of the time of the day when request volume is high and the time of the day when things are generally slow. Now, this will allow help desk managers to decide when they need the majority of their workforce on call to attend to requests from users. So the ticket inflow by hour of day report here does just that, and it helps help desk managers, or it tells help desk managers the hours of high request inflow and helps them in staffing. So if you look at this report here, you can see quite a high number of requests coming into the help desk between 3 a.m. and 7 a.m. and also a decent number of requests coming in between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. So as a help desk manager, I can see these clusters and make sure that I have sufficient technicians on call during those hours of the day, so that they are able to handle this high volume that is coming into the help desk. Now, the average resolution age tier and the aging report here collectively classify requests into different buckets based on the amount of time it takes to resolve or close requests on average. Now, aging reports are some of the most sought after reports because it sort of helps you put things into perspective in terms of how soon or how late the requests are being resolved. Now, as a help desk manager, when you're looking at this report and you're not too happy with it, so for example, I'm looking at this set of requests that took over 60 days to resolve in Q4 2019, and you're not really happy with the fact that these many requests have taken over 60 days to be resolved. And let's say you want to investigate further and find out who are the technicians who were responsible, or who are the technicians who handled these requests. Now you can just click on the section of the report that you're interested in and use this option called drill down by. And when I click on drill down by, I will get a pop-up that will show me the different fields from my request. And I can drill down based on any of these fields that are available. So I can click on technician, and as soon as I click on technician, you can see that the report will refresh with data of the different technicians who handled these requests and also the number of requests they handled. Now, if you want to go a little deeper and find out what are the different categories these requests fall under, you can drill down further and do a lot of investigative analysis. And also, if you want to just take a look at a list view of requests that fall under this criteria, you can just click on the view underlying data option, and you will get a pop-up like this, which gives you a tabular view of things, tabular view of those requests that fall under this criteria. Now you can use any of these options here. You can export it to a CSV, Excel, PDF, HTML, or you can also export it to a Zoho sheet if you're someone who also uses the Zoho sheet application. Right. So, and one of the recent additions to the Service Desk Manager dashboard is the unified audit history. And if you're someone who also plays the role of an asset manager and has to submit audit reports, or someone who likes to keep track of the recent changes in hardware and software, the Unified Audit History Report is a one-stop shop which lets you do all that, because it combines the software changes, hardware changes, and manual changes all into a single report. And so as you can see here, these are the different assets. And for this particular asset, I see a bunch of hardware updates on the 5th of July, and also a bunch of softwares have been removed, and a set of new software has been installed on the 5th of July. So similarly, if there are any asset ownership changes, let's say if this particular asset was moved from one user to another, or if it was moved from an in-store status to an in-use status, you will see all those in this same report. So this way, you don't have to create separate reports to track each of these audit changes, and it helps you track all of it in a single place. And going back to our Service Desk Manager dashboard, here's a graphical representation of assets that haven't been scanned in a long time. Again, you can use the drill down function here to see what type of assets have not been scanned over this period of time, or if you also want to just see what are the different sites to which these assets belong, you can do that using the drill down functionality. And finally, something that has a financial aspect to it in this dashboard is the assets in store for too long. When assets are purchased and not used for a really long time, it is a lot of money wasted. And help desk and asset managers should aim to keep this period low in order to use assets more efficiently. So those are a couple of examples of how role-based dashboards can give a holistic view of help desk operations to CIOs and help desk managers respectively. So similarly, we have a technician leaderboard dashboard that is available out of the box, which is useful for technicians to track their performance against the rest of the team. But if you think about it, the word holistic doesn't only mean giving users an overview of what's going on, but also shedding light on things that go unnoticed, especially the ones that may impact or hinder the operational efficiency. So if you, a good example of that is a journey of a request from start to finish, because a journey of a request can give a lot of insight on how technicians handle requests and bring it to closure. It is not uncommon for help desk technicians or help desk requests to get transferred from one technician to the other. It could happen when technicians from different teams have to work on requests at different stages of their life cycle. Now, one of the most common problems I often hear from help desk managers is that they never know how many technicians work on a particular request and for what period of time. In other words, the time spent by technicians or each technician on a request. And it's very important to know this for two important reasons. One is to make sure that you know who's accountable for which part of your request, and also it is useful to identify technicians who may be taking a longer time to resolve requests, which might be adversely impacting the rest of the team. So when multiple technicians work on a request, it is really hard to know who did what and at what point in time. So when a request or part of the request was not handled properly, it could end up in a finger pointing contest. Now, traditional reporting doesn't show you a history of what happens in a request during its life cycle, because it is based on the final resting status of the request. But advanced analytics fills this gap by displaying dashboards on technician transition history. Now, just a note here is the data for tracking technician transitions should be available in your Zoho Analytics applications already, but you may not be able to see this dashboard yet. Again, along with the asset, or even before the asset analytics is available for Zoho Analytics, we will have this dashboards, the pre-built dashboards for technician history rolled into Zoho Analytics very soon. But right now, you should have the data which will let you build these dashboards, but you may not have the pre-built dashboard available to you right now. So this can serve as a preview of what you can expect in the near future. So this dashboard includes some much needed metrics that were not available to Service Desk Plus users earlier. Now, the widgets at the top should give you a fair idea of what I'm talking about. This shows you the total number of, or the average number of technician changes or reassignments that happen on each request, the average amount of time spent in an unassigned status, the average time spent by each technician. And also another interesting aspect is the most frequent technician change. So it tells you who is more likely to reassign a request to a different technician. Now, the time spent reports are some of the most frequently requested reports of all time. And these time spent reports are not generated based on the work log entries, rather it is generated based on the amount of time each of these requests stood assigned to the technicians. The quarter-on-quarter time spent by technician gives you a comparative figure of the average time spent by different technicians in each of these quarters. And on the right, the average time spent by technician represents the overall average amount of time technicians tend to spend on requests. Now, again, this is another interesting report which shows you the technician reassignment behavior. Now, the reassignment behavior can tell you a lot about how requests are handled in the help desk. Now, in our example, you can see that there is a high number of requests moving from the unassigned state to Heather, and also a similar number of requests moving from moving from Jennifer to Heather. Now, this could point to one of two things. It could mean that requests that need to be automatically routed to Heather are not being routed to her, or it could also mean that technicians are deliberately offloading their work to Heather for some odd reason. So understanding that the reason behind such trends could help in sorting inefficiencies in the help desk. And also, too many request reassignments could be a cause for concern, because it could mean that requests are being passed on from one technician to the other without no single person taking ownership. And in my case, I can notice that the number of request reassignments seem to be creeping up, which needs some investigation from my end. Also, when we talk about high resolution times, we don't really think about the amount of time a request spends in an unassigned status, because all the time that a request spends in an unassigned status is time wasted, and it adds to the overall time it takes to resolve the request. And that is exactly what this report is telling me. It is telling me the average amount of time a request spends in an unassigned status. So it looks like it has gotten really bad in April 2019, but is seemingly on a downward trend at the moment. And when we talk about wasting time, this report is another useful one in terms of finding out if technicians are just wasting their time on requests, or in other words, not using their time in a very productive way. Because this report here, the technician change history for the top 10 longest pending requests, gives you an idea of the amount of time each technician spent on different requests. So if you consider request ID 7, you can see that John Roberts worked on it for about 25 minutes, after which it got assigned to Jennifer, and Jennifer apparently reassigned it back to the unassigned queue. And it's been sitting in the unassigned queue for about 60 minutes. So this will help you sort of understand the journey of the request, and also identify the different technicians who handle requests at different stages. Now, similar to technician transitions, tracking status transitions is also important, because there are a few status transitions, or the few statuses that are less desired than the others. So an example of that is an on-hold status. So because when a request is in an on-hold status, you can assume that nothing is pretty much happening on the request. You can consider it as one of the undecided statuses. And this report gives you an idea of how much time the requests spend in on hold. And similarly, tells you the average number of status changes, average time in open status, the most frequent status change. It looks like most of my technicians tend to put my requests on hold for too long. And similar to the technician transition dashboard, you have a quarter-on-quarter comparison of the time spent in each status, the most frequent status change, the average number of status changes per request, and a trend of the on-hold time over the last few months. So those are a couple of examples of how analytics gives you a holistic view of your help desk, and also how it can help you look at things that are otherwise usually missed. Now, let's talk about an important aspect of that analytics can help you do, that is decision making. Now, it's important to get insights and act on them in order to improve efficiency. And make a positive difference in your help desk operations. Now, one of the most difficult things to judge in your help desk is the workload on your technician. Now, understanding workload is essential for two important reasons. One is so that you can make sure that your help desk is balanced, and also it helps you plan for future demands. Now, your technicians could either be overworked or have very little to do, and both of them are not very good. A balanced help desk can ensure satisfactory resolutions and happy customers, because all the technicians have the same amount of work assigned to them and can together try and resolve all the requests with the right type of care. And also, request volume generally tends to increase over time, owing to increase in headcount, or that is employee headcount, or just general growth of the organization. So help desk managers should be in a position to forecast demands and check if their help desk team is big enough and is able to handle potential increase in employee headcount. Now, one of the most common ways to check technician workload is to look at the number of requests and tasks assigned to them. A simple report like this one that shows the total number of requests that are open and tasks that are assigned to each of the technician should give you a fair idea of the number of requests and tasks assigned. But merely looking at the total number of requests or the time they spend on them doesn't give an accurate picture, because the effort involved is not the same across all the requests. Because if you think about it, resolving 5 high priority requests requires a lot more effort compared to resolving 10 low priority incidents. And that is primarily because technicians have far less time to resolve critical incidents and have to put in more effort. So it is essential to factor in both the amount of time technicians have in order to resolve requests, along with the total number of requests that is on their plate. Now, a good way to do that is using the technician load factor report. The technician load factor is calculated by dividing the total number of requests assigned to a technician by the average amount of time available to resolve those requests. Again, the load factor is calculated based on the total number of requests divided by the average amount of time available to technicians in order to resolve those requests. And it gives a better and a more accurate picture of the workload on technicians. So by just looking at this report, I can see that my workload is not balanced. The first 3 technicians here look to have a higher workload than these 4 technicians that you see here. So as a good practice, what you can do as a help desk manager is reassign some of these requests to these technicians so that they can chip in and bring the requests to a closure. So that is an example of how analytics can help you assess the technician load and make sure that your requests, or make sure that the workload is evenly distributed across all your technicians. Now, another area where analytics can help make decisions is asset management, especially when it comes to decisions that help save money. Now, there are 2 different assets that are offered to employees: assets that are usually pre-purchased and are available in stock, and the assets that are purchased only when someone requests for it. Now, a good example of assets that are pre-ordered are workstations. A few other examples are desk phones and printer cartridges. So it makes sense to have a set of workstations pre-ordered and in stock to cater to new employees or as replacements to existing employees. When you don't plan and don't have enough workstations in stock, it could adversely affect the business due to delays. And without a workstation, new employees will take a longer time to get inducted, and existing employees will experience loss in productivity. But Pre-ordering assets, it is not that easy, and it's like a tightrope that you have to walk with little margin for error, because pre-order too much and you end up with too many workstations in stock, and for too long, which is a lot of money wasted. Order too less and you end up in a situation where there are insufficient workstations to meet the demand. The only way to avoid both situations is to track usage and anticipate demand. And one of the ways you can easily do that is using a monthly consumption or monthly asset consumption report. It gives you the details of the total number of the total number of assets that are usually consumed every month, and the number of assets that are available in stock or in store. So if you look at desk phones here, my monthly consumption is at about 10 desk phones per month, whereas I have about 22 desk phones available in stock. So this could mean that I'm going to have sufficient desk phones for the next couple of months. Whereas when you look at workstations, I have the monthly consumption at about 15 units, whereas I only have 5 units available in stock, which means I'm going to run out of workstations pretty soon. So using this report, you can judge which asset or what type of assets need to be pre-ordered, and also ensure that you don't order too many of these assets without looking at what is absolutely needed. So those are a couple of examples of how analytics can help you make decisions in your help desk. So a quick summary of what we discussed. We looked at how role-specific dashboards cater to different audience, such as CIOs and help desk managers. We looked at how history reports show you things that go unnoticed. And also we looked at how calculated metrics such as technician workload and asset consumption help you make informed decisions. So that brings us to the end of this webinar. Again, thank you so much for joining in. And if there are any questions that we missed out, we'll make sure to reply to you in an email sometime today. And everyone who's joined will also receive a recorded version of this webinar if you want to go back and look at some of the aspects that we discussed about today. But in the meanwhile, if you have any questions, you can always email masterclass@servicedeskplus.com. Right, so once again, thank you all for joining in, and I hope to meet you all again in another interesting webinar very, very soon. Right, thank you so much.